Hey up, me ducks. It's Simon. How are you doing? Just looking at everybody filtering in the chat. Hope we're all well. Um, Happy Beltane for Monday. It's probably the only opportunity I'm going to get to say it. It's one of the cross quarters, so I love it I love all the Sabbats, particularly Samhain and Yule. I love Ostara as well. But Beltane, we're getting closer to summer. So it's one of the cross quarters between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. So, and if you saw my video earlier, even though we've just had a monsoon, it's gone pitch black, all the lights are on, and we've just had a downpour of rain. But today felt like the first day of proper spring. Beautiful blue skies, and yeah, it was just nice to walk around the city, and it was good. So how is everybody? It's lovely to see so many people here. Let's do some hellos. So Lee says first, and then Rob comes in second. Nice to see you both. And we've got Ramon and Anne. Anne can make it this week, so that's nice that you can join us, Anne. We've got Carol and Inkwitchy Tarot, Ange and Caroline. How are you doing? Making a cup of coffee. Can't fault you, Caroline. And then we've got the lovely Celia. How are you? Blessings to all, she says. Gemstone. We've got Vanessa. Oh, just jumped. Our Sandra's here. Hello, Sandra. And long-haired, skinny-eyed toe. We have Redwing. Nice to see you. We've got Brian from Guncle Tarot. Hello, Brian. And Patsy. Hello, Patsy. But if it's nice where you are, but you've been getting some sea walks, along the seafront walks in. Anne's here. Hello, Anne. Nice to see you. David, hello. That made me laugh. He says, waiting for shopping delivery. Every time I do one, a bottle of wine drops into my basket. And then we've got Susan and Rachel Ray. It always reminds me of the Bob Dylan song, Lay Lady Lay. Lay Lady Lay, lay across my big bed. Patrice, hello. Hello, beautiful cavers. Here but not for long. Binge watching How to Get Away with Murder. Well, enjoy, Patrice. Lily Rose, we've got Kate and Douglas. Hi, Douglas. We have Alicia and Sunny, hello. And where else? Spiritually Me. Perfect timing, just got in from work. Time to chill out with a cuppa and watch Cuppa and catch up with you all. Well, welcome. It's lovely to see you. We've got Hippie on the Hill. Happy Beltane. We have Malamia. Hello, Malamia. Nice to see you. And Maharet. Nice to see you too. Stu. Hello, Stu. Have you got this downpour? You're not too far away from me, are you? I think you're only about, is it 15 miles? So yeah, beautiful today, and now it's throwing it down, as we say. Karina, Star and Flurry, Madwitch, hello Giselle, lovely to see you. How you doing? How's your weekend? We've got Marite, Emily, Kelly, Leslie, Mike, hello Mike. Greetings from Salzburg. Well, welcome. Karen, Hillary, nice to see you, Hillary. SJ, and Kath is here. A year and a day. Lovely to see you. Kim, our Kim's here. And I think I've caught up. It's Sheila. I'm glad you said that, Redwing, because every time I write Redwing, I thought, wonder what your name is. But I don't like to ask because some people don't like to give their names. I know a couple of people who we just call by their channel names. And I haven't got a clue what their real name is, but they like it that way. And I can understand and respect that. So I've got my cuppa. Oh, I don't know if I saw Chris. This year's Pride Cup is out from. I know you had last year's, and I couldn't get it. This is quite cool. It's got like this. We've got the logo at the bottom, but then you've got this silver that goes into the Pride colours, which is really nice. However, I wanted one for home and one for work, and there's only one on the shelf, and I bought it. And I've been going in last couple of weeks trying to get another one for work. And I've like, you got any more Pride mugs? And they're like, we shouldn't have put them out yet. We put them out by mistake. Well, it obviously rung through the till because they served it me. Because obviously Pride Month isn't until June. So I think they're not supposed to put them out till May. But I got one by in error. Ah, lovely coffee. Yeah, so how's everybody's week been? It feels like every time I'm here on a Saturday, um, which is the highlight of my week, but it feels like it comes around quicker and quicker every single week. Um, Giselle is going to listen while she cooks, so if I miss any messages, I apologise. Yeah, there's about six above Giselle directed at you. I'm joking. Uh, when are you doing a double act with Simon again? Yeah, well, we haven't planned anything for the summer yet, but we're together, definitely together in October half term. Well, as it goes into November for our trip, our annual trip to Glastonbury. So I'm looking forward to that. But we said, over the summer, Sandra will have to come up, so we will. And I didn't know until today, until I did my walk with me video, that Sandra's never been on a tram, on a Nottingham tram, of all the time she's been here. So we'll have to rectify that. Cauliflower cheese. Oh, Andrew's had a horrid week. Sorry to hear that. I hope this week ahead is better. What country are you in, Ange? Because over here we've got two 4-day weeks now, next week and the week after. So this, because it's Beltane, well, here we call it May Day, but it's May Day on Monday. And so we get a bank holiday for May Day, and we get one at the end of the month for Spring Bank Holiday. And then because next Saturday is the coronation, the King's coronation, they've given us an extra bank holiday just for this year on the Monday. So this week and next week, we've got two 4-day weeks. If you work in public sector, of course, lots of private sector companies, you've still got to work, particularly if you're in the hospitality industry and places like that. But in terms of a lot of shops, they get Sunday hours, or banks and post offices and all that will shut. That's why it's called a bank holiday. And education and all that, schools, colleges, they all close. So, hello, Calla. Nice to see you. Um, yeah, lovely to see you. And Kiki Bell. Hello, Kiki Bell. Been counting, weighing, and measuring fish this week. They've just started moving downstream. Oh, wow. It's been an effing exhausting week. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe my boy is just wearing me out. Yeah, I think there is something in the air. I got a text message from a friend last night who said, "Thank God that week's over." But there's been so many highlights for me this week as well. Just some nice events that we've done, and yeah, just some highlights. But it has been a long week, but it goes quick because, like I said, it's 5 minutes since. It feels like 5 minutes since I sat here with you. Okay, there's some comments coming through. I'm in South Cheshire, Simon, about 10 minutes north of Stoke. Oh, wow, that's not too far then. As in Stoke-on-Trent. Had an upsetting completion of the sale of my late mum's house this week. I was born in it. Oh my gosh, that would be upsetting. Yeah, I totally understand that. Letting go of something that we've got so many attachments to on an emotional level is dreadful. So much love to you. I totally, totally get it. Totally get it. I'm not sure what's happening there. I must have missed a comment. Um, Someone's passed their degree. So you're Kathy, well done on passing a degree. Hello to Maya, nice to see you. Um, isn't Mercury in retrograde again? Possibly. Um, I'm not quite sure why people are saying sorry to Kathy, but congratulations on a degree. I'm trying to scroll back, but I can't find the comment. So I must have missed it. I do apologise. I look away for a moment and start talking, then I miss comments as they come in. Oh, I've just seen it. Beginning of the week was horrible. I got dumped, but I ended up on a good note as I passed my degree yesterday with a first. That's brilliant. But even though you put I got dumped, there's a laughy face, like you're not really that bothered. Um, and things happen. Oh, I sound like one of those annoying things happen for a reason, but they really do. And sometimes it's not till we're at a much further point into the future and we look back and then we realise that actually that was a blessing in disguise. So, but if you're hurting, then obviously much love. Um, I blame the retrograde for all my goose right now. Um, Mercury is in retrograde, yes, right. Uh, yes, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle between Stoke-on-Trent and Crewe, about 50 miles from you. Yeah, well, I used to. My sister lived in the Wirral, and when we used to drive up there, we used to drive up through Stoke, very often. So, Stoke-on-Trent isn't that far from Derby. So going from Nottingham to Derby, Burton-on-Trent, Stoke-on-Trent. Yeah, so not too far. Cheshire's a big area then, isn't it? Because some parts of the Wirral is classed as Cheshire as well. Cheshire. Um, Hello, Night Daughter Oracle. Nice to see you. And Brian, another Brian's here, Blushing Nerd Tarot. Nice to see you as well. So yeah. So I thought I'd do a tag. I actually saw this tag about a month or so ago. Um, and it's by the YouTuber Larkin Legend. And I commented on it at the time because I really enjoyed watching it. But I thought to myself, oh, I'd like to do that one, but there's a few prompts that I wouldn't be able to answer. I didn't think I'd be able to answer. And then this morning, before I got up, I just watched a little bit of social media in bed because I had a lay in this morning. And our Chris from Elemental Cartomancy had done the tag. And I watched it and I really enjoyed listening to his responses. And I left a comment saying, I kind of wanted to do this one, but I don't think I'd be able to answer all of the prompts. And there's not that many. I think there's only about 11. Um, and he said, I'm sure you would be able to answer the most of them. So, so yeah, I thought I would do it. So the tag is tarot first, hashtag tarot first. And it's not, like I say, it's not a new tag. It's been out for about a month or so. But yeah, I thought I'd give it a go. Um, Emily said excited for the tag. Okay, so I'm going to have to put the comments on here because I need my iPad for the prompts so that I can answer them. Although I can do both now because I'm a YouTube Premium member. It only gives me my image, um, not the chat, which is quite annoying seeing yourself down there at the bottom. But anyway. So, prompt number one. Sandra says she still has a couple of VRs to do. There's quite a few going around at the moment, isn't there? And thank you, everybody that's been doing the Tarot Tubers A to Z. I've really been enjoying watching them and discovering new people. So, and that's what's great about tags. You get to, if you click on the tags, it brings up channels that your algorithm might not ever suggest. So that's why I like to do them as well and follow tags, because you're introduced to people. Hello, Beth. Nice to see you. Okay, so the first prompt is your first encounter with tarot. So for that, I'm going to do as in my first physical encounter with the tarot, because, and I have shared these stories before. So if you're hearing them again, that's because I've mentioned them before. Because I've seen the tarot on TV programs and films like James Bond when I was a kid, and Tales of the Unexpected and that sort of thing. It was always kind of frowned upon in my family because of the family background. But I started working at a theme park when I was 16, and there was somebody who worked there who used to read tarot cards. And we used to get into work quite early because you had to be there early. They were long days working that summer. Well, I did 3 seasons actually. They were long days, and you had to be there for about 8 a.m. And you would collect your keys for your unit. You'd find out what shop, because we was in the retail department for that year. And you'd find out what unit you was going to be on, and you have to collect your float and your keys. So we all used to congregate in this one shop called the Soap Shop, originally named. Guess what that shop sold? But it had the offices of the managers around it. And so we used to go there because that's where the floats were dropped off. So we'd all congregate, and this particular day, this person was doing card readings, tarot card readings, and said, shoes. Yeah, they sold shoes. She said, would you like your card reading? And I was like, yes. I was so excited. I was like, I do want my card reading. And she gave me a tarot reading. Now, I can't remember anything about that tarot reading. But I do remember thinking, wow, that's really intrigued me. And I said to her, I'd love to get a set of these cards. And she said, well, I'll get you a set. And in my mind, but it can't have been, but in my mind, I've always thought about giving her a £10 note, but that would have made the deck really expensive 36 years ago. So I couldn't have given her that much money. Maybe it was a £5 note, but I gave her some money anyway, and she got me a set. But that was my first encounter, and it goes straight into what is your first tarot deck, mass market and indie. So I'm glad that the prompt is mass market and indie, because everybody knows my first tarot deck, which is this one. And it was this same kit. So I've got multiple versions of the 1JJ Swiss. But from this, you would never know that it was 1JJ Swiss. So when I found the tarot community and everybody was talking about 1JJ Swiss, I just remember it from this box, this yellow box. It's a very tall yellow box. It's a tarot fortune telling game. And this was the deluxe edition, because you got a book by Stuart Kaplan, which was helpful when you don't know anything about the cards. And then you get this fold out. I don't know if I'll be able to fit it all in. Well, basically, it's the Celtic cross. And I can remember laying this down on the floor. I took it round to my sister's house, and I laid this down on the floor. I only used the majors because those pattern cards made no sense to me. But I remember laying it out, and we sat around and was asking loads of questions, and consulting the tarot, and it was so much fun. Really, really loved it. If this is going to be in order because I've not used this deck. I've got Conrad Staines' deck that I use a lot, the vintage one, and I've also got Vincent Petitsch's, which is out on my desk for my 1JJ Swiss. But, you know, it's very colourful. They use the primary colours of red, blue, and yellow. There are some greens in here. JJ because it uses Junon and Jupiter rather than the High Priestess and the Hierophant or the Pope. But it's a very clear deck. And every time I see these images, I'm transported back in time. And this is the deck that I was familiar with anyway, because the TV program Tells the Expected showed this deck. That is an iconic image that goes back to the 70s in British culture. I love that devil card. It's one of my favourite devil cards. I also really like the moon, how it's split into two. You've got the crayfish here. You've got like a Romeo and Juliet scene. So it's very different to other kind of Marseille style decks. So that was my first mass market deck. 36 years ago. This is getting, there's something in here that's one of those little paper things. I might put that actually in the box so it doesn't keep I'll try and keep up with the comments in a minute. Let me just put these in. Yeah, 36 years ago. I can't believe that much time has passed. It still feels like yesterday, doesn't it? If you're old like me and you're thinking back to that sort of, when you think back to the 80s, it just feels like yesterday. Let's have a sup of coffee. So I'll show you my indie, then I'll pause and have a look at some comments. So my first ever indie deck was when I discovered the YouTube channel, because I didn't even know indie decks were a thing. I didn't know you could self-produce things like tarot decks. I just thought you got them from Ice Nine or some kind of, you know, mind, body, spirit shops and things like that, where you got your oracle decks from. And then I discovered this community and all that changed. And I found the online community in 2016. I'm not going to say any more about that because it's a further prompt, another prompt a bit further on. But the person who I first found on YouTube, which I'll mention later, also showed this deck, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a beauty. And then I heard people talking about indie decks, and so I just Google searched it. But the deck was the Lumina Tarot. So this was back end of 2016, probably around August, September time of 2016. And it took probably till about November, December to get to me. I think it comes from Australia. It took ages. And I never thought it was going to arrive. And I placed the order, and then there was an email saying there's a bit of a delay. So I think I ordered it around August, and it came just before Christmas. Now this is a backup copy because I edged my other copy in black. And it had an oracle that came with it as well. It didn't come with it, but you could buy from the same Inner Hue, the company Inner Hue, called Connected and Free. And that had 2 editions, and I bought both because I was obsessed with it. So this one hasn't been touched at all. It is still as you would buy it. My other one is in a pouch. You get a Inner Hue pouch. Then you get the book, Lumina Tarot. Now, a lot of people at the time, I've got this Ouroboros here, a lot of people at the time criticised this deck, saying that it was copied from the Wild Unknown because it was very similar in its style to the Wild Unknown. And if this is what the original Wild Unknown cardstock was like, then I'm jealous that I never got a copy of the indie Wild Unknown, because the cardstock on this deck is amazing. absolutely gorgeous. These are the backs. And then you get this card that says, let your intuition guide you. You are what you have been looking for. Isn't that nice? Let your intuition guide you. You are what you have been looking for. Interestingly, no, it's okay. So this will be in order because, like I said, it's not used. It is a thick deck, but it is beautiful. It uses. I get why people compared it a lot to the Wild Unknown because of its art style, but this has humans in it as well as animals, dishy humans too. And another criticism of this deck was that everybody was beautiful, and body perfect. But I do see some kind of diversity, particularly with ages as well. I think this for the Hierophant card is incredible. People say Charles Manson or these two at the time, but I love the use of colour on a black and white sketch as well. So yeah, it's a really, really gorgeous deck. I need to dig this out. I've not worked with this for a couple of years now. It used to be my favourite deck. In fact, when I started my channel in 2017, the first video I did asked what's your current favourite deck, and it was this one, because this, I even preferred it to Pagan of the Worlds. But it's really, really gorgeous. I'll just show the mages. I mean, look at that for the devil. The sound it makes as well. Oh, look at that. Yeah, beautiful deck. And then the miners are Pip-ish, but not completely, as you can see. Show you a few. It is so beautiful. Look at the Ten of Pentacles. Yeah, so, and the Connected and Free is a beautiful oracle too. So that was my first ever indie deck. And I was a little bit put off because I was thinking, oh my gosh, because it was a lot of money. And back then, I earned okay, but it wasn't a brilliantly paid job. And I kind of felt very nervous buying it, but I'd just seen it and loved it, and yeah. And then I didn't regret it. I didn't regret getting it once I'd got it. It was like, oh God, this is beautiful. All right, so let's have a look at some comments before I move on to the next prompt. I don't know how far back to go. Well, I can only go back to a certain bit because then it's dropped off. What's that? What's annoying is someone you used to like ends up blocking you for no reason. The community can be so picky. I'm not quite sure what's happened. So Simon, how are you handling the death of Book Depository? I didn't order a lot from Book Depository, although I did order. Probably 3 or 4 times a year I would order from Book Depository. So I haven't missed it yet. That said, and it's on another prompt, so I'll mention it later. I went to Amazon to see if they'd got a Prime version, and they didn't. And my automatic thing was, all right, let's try Book Depository, and then I remembered that it's gone. So, but I think it's sad overall because free worldwide shipping, not many people do that. So, that must have been so exciting, Simon, when you handed over that cash for your first deck. Yeah, it was. It was even more exciting when I got set in my hand and thought, oh, I own a tarot deck, and didn't I couldn't go home and say, Mom, I got a tarot deck. Yeah, what? So I had to keep it pretty secret. But my sister was pretty cool with all that stuff, so that's why I used to give to my sisters and read it, and then I'd read from my friends and um uh, uh, okay. Let's see if there's any more questions. I've never had a professional reading. I've never had anybody to do a reading for me before, actually. That's a shame. I have had a professional reading. I had it recorded onto a disc. And at the time, I think I went kind of out of curiosity to see how they read, bit of market research. And I was like, that's not what that card means, being all kind of judgy. Um, but actually, she just read the cards purely intuitively, which is fine. Um, and actually, what she said at the time, I kind of thought, oh, I can understand where that might be going. And then it wasn't until I listened to the disc about a year later, I was like, now I know what she meant. So, uh, I have Connected and Free first edition. Yeah, I got both editions. Are in the other room at the moment. I've got a little 3-drawer box. It's got Lumina, Connected and Free 1, Connected and Free 2. Um, love Lumina, so beautiful. I did a video recently with it against the Naked Heart Tarot. Oh wow, yes, I think I remember. Yeah, when you were talking about having two similar style decks, one for the van and one for home. Yeah, I think I remember that now, Giselle. Uh, what finish is on the card? Sounds like one of mine. Sounds like one of mine. It's just a really nice soft matte. They are thick cardstock. They've got a nice smooth matte finish. Hello, Thace. Nice to see you. Thank you for doing a VR to my tag. I watched that this morning. Left a comment. I really enjoyed it. Hello, Richie. Nice to see you. Um, Amazon does, yes, David. Amazon is stocking more and more fake decks. I think it's because you've got the Amazon Marketplace and anybody can really sell on there now. Which, yeah, stick to eBay if you're going to do that. um, I'm waiting for Thistledown. Thistledown is a beautiful deck. Okay, so let's go on to the next prompt. So the next prompt is your first Kickstarter deck. Now, I'm not a huge Kickstarter person. I went on to Kickstarter in readiness for this, and I think in total I've backed about 8 decks in 6 years, 6 or 7 years. But my first deck that I backed, again, before I had a channel, was the Mons Tarot. Now, this is the second edition. It was the first edition that I backed, but I traded my first edition with Sandra from the Whispering Well. No, from Spirit of Avalon. Gosh, when will my brain catch up? Spirit of Avalon. Yeah, so this, as you can see at the bottom, is the second edition. And it was bought as a gift. And I was really pleased when I got this as a gift because it's like anything, when I get rid of decks, I always see it on somebody else's and I think, oh, I shouldn't have got rid of that. But, I did, so it is what it is. But it's the Mons Tarot and it's very simple, it's very colourful, by Joanna Nelson, who's done things like the Catland Whispering Spirits. But yeah, it's a great, fun, quirky deck. Nice matte card sorts. They're quite large actually for cards. But I watched the kind of creation of this online as well. And then they were talking about Kickstarter. And I remember saying in a chat, what's Kickstarter? And somebody saying, oh, here's a link, check it out. I was like, well, I'm tempted. And then I backed it and didn't realise you had to wait like 6 months. I was like, what? Because I'm not a very patient person. I mean, it's cute. It's really cute. So this was the first deck I ever backed on Kickstarter. First and only is not very adventurous. Odson's Tarot, Jean Dodal. That's a great deck. The Dodal is my favourite. I love it. Hello, B. Nice to see you. The Mons Tarot are great with gentle creatures. What was that? Just saw a comment there now. Let's have a look. Where is it? My first tarot deck is from indie creator called Alice in Tarotland. A very kind lady. I thought about complaining too, but I know if Amazon would even. Yeah, exactly. They're too big. That's the thing with Amazon. They're too big. Although, to be fair to them, when I have had issues in the past, they look at how many kind of purchases you made, and they've said to me in the past, well, being such a good customer, keep that and we'll send another one. If there's been like a fault, Osho Zen springs to mind. I bought 2 sets from them, and the back 2 cards were stuck together, so much so that when you pulled them apart they tore. And they said, oh, we'll send you another one, don't worry, just keep that. So I've got some spare cards. But the second one did it again, and so they refunded me. And then a very kind subscriber sent me a set of theirs that they've got either a copy they didn't want or an extra copy. The Mons Tarot walkthrough was the first video I watched of yours, Simon. Wow, what, from the original one 6 years ago, Kiki Bell, or when I got this one, second edition? Never back to Kickstarter. No, I'm not, unless something really kind of, jumps out where I think, oh wow, I really, really want it. Because you just have to be patient, because they can take over a year. So you pay your money and you have to kind of forget about it. Just forget about it until it comes. But that really tests you. That said, I backed my first, well, it's not really backing it because they take the money straight away, but my first ever purchase on Indiegogo this week, because Ros Salerno has just launched his new voice tarot. So he's the guy doing the new Choice Tarot de Marseille, which I love. It's one of my favourite Marseille decks. I've got a backup of that. And I've watched for the last couple of years the creation of the new voice, which is an RWS themed tarot deck. I've been watching and loving every image as he's completed it and posted it. And that launched on Indiegogo this week. So it is crowdfunding, but they take the money straight away as soon as you back. Whereas on Kickstarter, when the campaign ends, if they cross the line, they take the money. If you don't, because it's all or nothing on Kickstarter. Whereas Indiegogo, they've already took the money. And there's so many days left until the end of the campaign. But I've never backed on Indiegogo before, but that's the only way to get it, so I had to do it. Hello, Esoterica Sol. Kisses from Brazil. It's nice to have you here. I've not seen you here before, so welcome. Um, they're not going to do anything. The reason why I also complained because I bought a deck knowing it wasn't fake, had the correct creator name and everything there, and I was sent a fake. That is really bad, Caroline. Um, so we know who to blame for Simon's 700 Shades of Tarot. 700 Shades of Tarot. Uh, I'm just reading all about the Amazon comments, just trying to catch up. Do you have the Starman Tarot Sign? It's based on David Bowie. I do. I have the deluxe box set of that because I thought go large or go home because it was Bowie. I had to. And they're so busy. I'm glad I did get the larger cards of that to be able to see the details in it. Richie is also backed a new voice. I backed Serpent and Peacock and the Lonely Dreamer. I've got the first edition of Serpent and Peacock. I do like the look of the second version. I think improvements have been made, but yeah, it'd be a lot to buy for a second copy. Yeah, so that's that. So next prompt is your first tarotuber. Now then, my first tarotuber, I had to really think about this, but I think I've narrowed it down because I was like, it could be Jessie Huntenberg. So I remember discovering her really earlier. It could have been Elle from Sacred Seed, Alvine, who I love, Racine, or even our Kelly Bear. I know Kelly Bear was definitely the first Brit, so she wasn't the first YouTuber because I remember, but she was very there at the beginning. I remember thinking, oh, a fellow Brit who has since become a very close friend. Um, but the story, as I remember it, is being in Waterstones, which is the bookshop that I took people in today when I did the video that I uploaded earlier. I used to go in there and I used to go up to the mind, body, spirit section, which is now just called the spirituality section. And they used to have decks and things. And I only have had Oracle other than I'd got an RWS that I bought in 2008 and soul cards. And I used to go around the books as well because I used to buy every book that came out by Paulo Coelho. So I used to go in to see when his next book was out. So I used to always go to that section, and I'd be aware of tarot decks. But you know, then I got lots of books by Rumi because Rumi is a Sufi mystic, and his poetry is just beautiful, and his words are so wise. And I'd got a few Rumi books, and then I noticed there was a Rumi deck, a Rumi Oracle deck, which was by Blue Angel, and I think it was Alana Fairchild, I think. But it was sealed, and there was some images on the back, but I was like, shall I get it? Shall I get it? How will I use it? And anyway, I didn't. I put it back on the shelf and I came home. And then I sat here and I thought, I should have bought that Oracle. Shall I knit back? 'Cause it's literally 5 minutes. Shall I knit back? And then I thought, let me see if I can find anything out about it online. And I just went to Google and I put in Rumi Oracle. And there's, links to websites and all that. And then there was a strip of videos. And I thought, fab, a video. I'll be able to see all the cards. Because I didn't use YouTube at all. Never went on it. I was aware of it, but didn't really think much about it. I just thought it were clips like TikTok or whatever. And so I clicked on this link and it took me, I didn't even have an account. I just watched as an outsider. And it took me to a YouTuber called Ariel, and her channel was called Maven Unmasked. and I loved her energy, and she did lots of weird things like knocking on boxes, you know. And I was like, what's she doing that for? And she was talking about paper and card stock. I was like, card stock? All the things that we go on about now. But I really, really enjoyed it. And then from there, I thought, oh, wow, I wonder if this is a thing, that there's other people talking about decks and oracle decks. And that was the beginning of this. So, yeah, my first tarotuber was Ariel from Maven Unmasked. I don't think she makes videos anymore. I think the last one was a couple of years ago now. Um, and she also used to do readings and things like that. But every so often she'd do unboxing videos. And then that kind of led me into, looking for other decks and things and seeing about them. And then you would hear tarot tubers mention other tarot tubers, and they'd say, I'll link that below. So, of course, I looked at the link below, click on that. Before you know it, I realised there was a whole sort of network, a whole community of people that interacted with each other. Interestingly, though, back then, nobody, and there wasn't a lot, I'm probably 20 people doing it, but nobody met up in real life. There's from all different parts of the world, all around the globe. Um, People in Australia I used to watch, New Zealand, France, like what was it? And Celeste, I forgot her name. Gosh, my mind is terrible today. And of course, lots of people in the States and in the UK. There wasn't hardly any males at all. I think there was Patrick from in the 78 cards, he was called then, Patrick Fogarty. Um, yeah, that was about it. Um, One live. It was very different. Anyway, let's have a look at your comments. Where are we? That's really good. I waited on the Hong Kong tarot. Wow, I've not heard of the Hong Kong tarot. My first tarot tuber was Owl Moon 513. Yeah, that's Racine. That's who I mentioned. Uh, I think I think you was my first tarot tuber, Simon. You and Kelly at the Truth and Story. Yeah, I took a while to find Kelly. I think I'd been watching for quite a few months, and then I found Kelly and subscribed. And I still remember it now. It was a Saturday evening, and I was in the bath getting ready for bed. Because I've always, since 2014, walked on a Sunday morning. So we used to get really early, like I still do. And it was about it must have been just before 9 o'clock, and I was in the bath, and my phone pinged, and it said, Kelly, or no, it said the Truth is Story is live. I thought, what's this? So I pressed on it, and I started watching the video, and I could see she was talking to people. So I went to the comments. I was like, "Is this happening now?" Totally alien to me. And they're like, "Yes, it's and it just come up with my name. It didn't. I didn't have. I wasn't. I was gonna say it wasn't the Hermit's Cave, but before this, I was Two Spirit. I wasn't Two Spirit then. It was just my name. So that's how I found Kelly. I saw one of the Gem Goddess videos. Gem Goddess. The Hermit Cave, you're my first tarot tuber. It's really mind blowing to think I'm somebody's first tarot tuber because, I used to sit in awe of these, sages. That's how I thought of them, just these wise people, these tarot readers that, yeah, I just used to, it was a bit like an addiction when I first found TarotTube. I think weeks went by before I even switched the TV on because I used to I still live in the city, but I used to work out of the city. So I didn't have a car because I didn't see the point. I sold it and I moved here. I've got one now because I need one now. But I used to get on the bus in the morning and I'd have my iPad, which had a SIM card in it, and my earphones, and I'd sit watching YouTube videos all the way to work and all the way back. And I'd get home, have my dinner, and I'd watch, and I couldn't get enough of them. My first tarot tube was Our Moon. Uh, or Malamir's. I was Malamir's first, and then Truth in Story second. It was either you, Simon, or Emily's Witchcraft, the Tarot Great channel. Emily, most recent is, oh yeah, No Way, which you recommended last week. She was so blown away by that, you know. It was so lovely, and she was so appreciated. She's like, she left a comment saying, "I thought my phone was broken because it was ping, 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 ping because people were subscribing," which was so lovely. I've got on a watch later. She's done one. I woke up this morning. She's done one about most amusing cards or something. So I've got that to watch. Uh, Kellyanne Maddox. Yeah, lots of people. I still do interview people, but when I've interviewed people in the past, and one of the questions was, how did you find the tarot community, online tarot community? Lots of people mentioned Kellyanne Maddox. But I think because I came in through the tarot and oracle route rather than the witchcraft route, it took me a long time before I even heard of Kellyanne. Um, the Four Queens used to be called. I didn't know that. Red Wing. My first tarotuber was Simon. Avalon Cameron. Uh, Same story for Patsy. That's how I found tarotube as well. Simon researching a deck. I didn't know it existed. Gotta go. Bye, Hillary. Kellyanne Maddox and Katie Flowers. You're my first tarotuber, Simon, says Ange. Bye, Stephanie. I remember watching live chats and being too scared to comment. I think I only commented because I was like, is this happening now? Caroline Simon, it was you on the Truth and Story, and when you started your channel, Two Spirit, yeah, and she was so lovely, and because I started it and it was a Saturday, I remember I filmed it. I was so nervous, my throat was dry, and my finger had hovered over the record button for ages. I did so many botched attempts, and I just did it, uploaded it, and then I had to get on a bus to Derby to go and meet my friend for her birthday. And when I got on the bus, there was all these comments. I'm like, gosh, how do people know? Because I've got no subscribers, and they were all spam comments. I was like, oh. And then I was in Kelly's chat that night, and I said something like, "Oh, I uploaded my first video," and she was so gracious. She was like, "Go watch it after this, everybody," and people started subscribing, and it was really lovely, very supportive. Christine and Celeste, of course. Simon, you and Ethany were the first taroTubers I stumbled upon, I think 2017. Is that possible? Yeah, that'd be right. 6 years ago. I've had a channel just over 6 years now. Simon and John Ballantrae were my first channel, same day, but I can't remember who I saw first. I've not heard of John Ballantrae. Simon, you were my first taroTuber. Oh, gosh, all these people. I had no idea. Mystic Emsy, you were my first taroTuber. Almoon 513. Yeah, Racine is a popular one for a lot of people, and Alvine Green as well. Love her channel, still do. I'm behind on the messages. Hello from Toronto. Hello, English Toffee. Foolish Fish, not heard of them. I should really write these down and check them out. I can't remember whether you, Simon, or Deanne or Gerald was the first tarotuber for me. I'm over 120 subscriptions now. Brilliant. You was the first, Simon, for Leslie Kirk. The first time I heard of TaroTube, I thought it was something separate of YouTube. It took me a while to make the connection because you got on Google searching for TaroTube so you could download the app. Cecilia says, "You were my first TaroTuber. My sister said you must watch this guy. He's brill." And that was 6 years ago. Oh, yeah, Joe, your sister Joe. Been there right from the beginning. Right from the beginning. Naomi is another one that's been there right from the beginning. And I think Sandra, because I remember you used to use your name before you was Whispering Well. Um, I think. Is that right, Sandra? Ramon says, "You were my first Simon. I kept looking for videos when I started. I remember you because of a wooden duck on your table." So over there, my wooden duck is over there. It's a gift from Chris from Elemental Cartomancy. He sent me a wooden duck, which I treasure. Yes, it's by my sacred space. I've only just found Gregory Scott. First Katie Flowers, Simon, and the Three Queens. Simon, you were definitely one of my first, back when you were Two Spirit. Wow, face. I can't remember the first video I watched of yours, Simon. It then led me to when you were vlogging your visit to Becca's and you guys were burning something by the front door. We was letting go. We was doing a banishing ritual. Gosh, so that would be 2019. That was 4 years ago now. I remember that. I remember she used Florida water to burn the remnants away and lit it, and there was this beautiful blue flame. I was like, wow, it felt so magical. I found your channel through Tarathon. Not sure if you're remembering that correctly, Simon. Not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. You are remembering it correctly. Right, let me see. Yes, I missed your first couple of videos, but I was there virtually at the beginning. Yeah, you were. I'm new here. What's your channel? Because you said, "Hey up me duck." I'm Nottingham. New Moon, are you? Well, you probably won't want to say here, but as you say, whereabouts in Nottingham? I'm in the city centre. Simon, you were the first man I ever watched talking about tarot, says Flagella. Yeah, like I say, there wasn't. And I think it was quite novel because the comments I used to get right at the beginning was, "Wow, this is a refreshing change, a guy talking about tarot," or, "Oh, an Englishman," So I think the fact that I was male talking about tarot, which was at the time predominantly women that were doing tarot content, like I say, with the exception, I think Andrew Barker, and the only other one I remember was Patrick. And then after me came like Brian Cole McCall, Jeff Burr. I remember them popping up around within a few months of me starting a channel. Oh, and there was Chase as well the same year as me, 2 hours. Chase 2 hours. Simon, my first video and COVID is responsible for leading me here. Being locked up, I needed something to do, so I finally decided to take up tarot. Been here since. I stumbled across your channel, Simon, about 4 years ago. I think I was hooked. Oh, that's nice, Amanda. You were my first tarot tuber back when you were Cybrise Pad. I thought that was such a cool name. Cybrise Pad. Is that what my channel was called? Do you know, I've got no recollection of that. I know my first was my full name, Brian Simon Harrison. And when I started the channel Two Spirit, Kelly kept referring to me, Kelly from the Truth of the Story, as Brian. And I won a competition that she did, which was a reading from her. She kept referring to me as Brian, and it felt really strange because nobody calls me Brian except for my mum. She called me Brian. Um, but that must have been a default Cybrise pad. Gosh. Uh, I think I discovered you 2 years ago. I started being into tarot cards about 2019, 18. Um, I love the coziness and authenticity of your channel, Simon, and the lives and the pre-recorded. Oh, thank you, Emily. When you used to say, "What's up, me ducks?" It's "A up, me ducks" to Maya. I thought you said, "What up, me dogs?" Yeah, no, it's not "What's up." I always say, "A up, me ducks." And do you remember Nikki Sparkle? Nikki Sparkle used to be always in Kelly's chat. She was a moderator for her. She always thought I was saying, "Hey, ugly ducks." Hey, ugly ducks. I would never be so rude, but that made me chuckle. No, it was always "A up me duck," which is what we say in Nottingham and Derby, in this part of the East Midlands. Um, your name is Brian also. Yeah, well, it's my first given name, but I use my middle name, which is Simon. Like Simon's phone. Simon's phone? Your channel led me to Sandra Spirit of Avalon when I was watching your vlog with Sandra and Elle, and they posing for a photo, but you were doing a video. Can't remember that. This is fun though they say "A up duck" in the potteries. Wow. Okay, next prompt. Next prompt is your first tarot book. Now, for this one, first tarot book, technically, but I don't know what the creator, like a legend, what he was referring to, whether he meant like a reference book or a proper tarot book. But my first tarot book is this one, which is The Tarot Bible by Sarah Bartlett. It's very old, very dog-eared. The spine is very broken in. In fact, it's got all the cellophane coming off because it's tatty. But it's a great little resource, and it's still available. It has a different design on the front now. But I've got most of these, the Bibles. I've got the kind of like the Psychic's Bible, the Wicca Bible, the Spells Bible, all that kind of stuff. They're really, really good. And it uses the Universal Tarot as the images. It gives you keywords, key phrases, and interpretations. But there's so much more in this. You've got all your spreads, but you've got things like what to ask. You've got about shuffling techniques, choosing a deck. It's got the structure of the deck, symbolic language, goes through the history, why use tarot. It's got about Arthur Edward Waite and Crowley, and yeah, there's loads of stuff in here. Loads. Astrology, all sorts. So that was the first book, and I bought this in 2008 when I bought the Rider-Waite pack, as it was called then. So that was my first kind of like reference tarot book. But the first book that I got was 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. And I've read this twice from cover to cover, and I'm listening at the moment to it on Audible, because it's just great. It's just a great book. And I remember saying to people in a chat, must have been one of Kelly's chats back in the day, that I'd just bought it and I was just starting out, and somebody said, "Don't start with this book, get something a little bit easier. I would never recommend this for a beginner." And they were completely wrong. whoever it was that said it, because I devoured it, and I think it's a must-have book for anybody really who's wanting deeper insights into the tarot. So that's my first books. Let's see what you guys are saying. Okay. Where did I get up to? I can remember that. You said, let's see how long they stand before realising. Oh, outside the church in Chesterfield. 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollock. May her memory be a blessing. Absolutely. First time I heard you say "help me" don't made me smile, as when I was a child, one of our elderly neighbours always used to say that when seeing us. Must have been from this area. Mine was Tarot 101. Eden Gray's little supermarket-sized paperbacks. Oh God, says Carla. First book, yeesh. My first book was the one that I bought to go along with the Jungian Tarot, my first deck, which I could not read for years and years. Christina says, actually, no, my first book was the guidebook for the Shadows Apes Tarot, written by Barbara Moore. Not heard of the Shadow Apes. I guess, to be technical, the Mermaid Tarot guidebook would be counted. Yeah, I guess if they come in a set, I've never really counted that. But as a standalone book, I was kind of thinking, was that how I interpret it? I have so many tarot books, but always find myself going back to the Tarot Bible. Such a great book. I think it's a great book, great resource. That really helped me to learn the tarot as well. Because I think I was pretty much okay with the majors, but the minors and the courts I struggled with back in the day. Same here, Simon. I have the book. I will pop the audio book on during bedtime until I fall asleep. 78 Degrees of Tarot first came out in two separate books. It did. 81 or 80 and 83, I think. One for the major and the second for the minor. It was the best book I found to really understand the images in the tarot. First book was Barbara Walker's Secrets of the Tarot to go with the deck, Deep. Beginner's Guide to Tarot by Juliet Sharman Burke. And David says, 80 Weight was the first for me, very traditional. Second was Meditations on the Tarot. 80 Weight as in the pictorial key. Shadowscapes Tarot, sorry, my phone. Oh, Shadowscapes. I love it. Shadow Apes. Oh, now we need to create a deck called Shadow Apes. I'm trying to visualize what that might be about. My first tarot, but why didn't I make the connection? Shadow Apes, Shadowscapes. My first tarot book was from the library back in 1982, says Patsy. Can you remember which one? What it was called? I just came back from a concert and the lead singer's name is Brian. Okay. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, the pictorial key. Cool. Let's have some more coffee. Oh, so good. Okay. My first book is Guided Tarot for Seamless Readings by Stephanie Capone. I love hearing people's journey with books and decks. And okay, so the next question is first tarot podcast. So I'm not a huge podcast person, but my friend Kelly is, and she told me about a few. So I did hear some, but now I was trying to think of what they were called. So this is just from memory, and there was two, but I can't remember which I heard first. And I listened to some during lockdown, but since I just don't have time for podcasts. That said, and I don't. Not only do I not have time, I don't have the kind of the brain capacity with ADD because if I'm just listening to something, then my mind is distracted all the time. So unless I'm in a very dark room, like a bedtime, but then I tend to fall asleep. Podcasts don't go too well. That said, I've just um, subscribed to audio. No, not audio. What's it called? The audio book thing. What is it called? Is it on here? No, it's on my phone. Audio. Help me, somebody in the comments. Um, and I'm listening to 78 Degrees of Wisdom. But they only give you one credit a month. I thought it was like unlimited, like subscribing to Amazon Music, something like that. You could listen to as much as you wanted. Audible, thank you. Everybody's putting Audible now. Um, yeah, so, but that's for the car because I sometimes have an hour's drive each way to one of the work destinations. So I thought, well, I can put that on in the car and listen to it and hopefully not fall asleep. But going back to that, I think it was called something like Root Lock Tarot. And then there was one that was about a wild. This is from memory. Tarot for Wild Souls, um, and I used to find them quite interesting. So I would have them on in the background whilst I was working from home, and kind of sometimes just for background noise. But every so often I'd listen in and think, "Oh, that's interesting." Um, so the next couple is where I was like, I don't know if I should do this tag because I can't really answer them. So the first one is the first tarot course. I've never done a tarot course. Um, just haven't. Um, and I'm not sure why. Um, I think it's just I'm that sort of person where I don't. It's going to sound really bad, however I word it, but if somebody says you should do something a certain way, that kind of switches me off to things. However, I love it when there's a group of friends together and you say, "Well, tell me how and they start talking about how they work." I like that. I like seeing how other people read cards. But when you're kind of signing up for something like a course, it's to learn, isn't it? And I don't know, there's something that puts me off somebody saying this is how you do. That said, if I was to learn something from scratch, I might do it. I think it's because I'm a certain way down my tarot journey. So I don't know. I've been talking about Lenormand, haven't I? When I showed that deck the other day, and I was like, really should try and learn properly. Maybe I'd do a course. Um, but yeah, so in terms of my first tarot course, I've never done one, and that's just me. And then the next one is the first major tarot teaching you relearned in a way that better suited you. And I had to really think about this because, again, if somebody has said to me, um, you need to do it this way, I kind of see that as gatekeeping. And I've had things in the past where people have said, oh, you should only do, um, I'm not, if I was going to give an example then, but it would kind of highlight something. So I'm not. Another example is, oh no, you have to read reversals. Well, I don't think you do have to read reversals. I think it's optional. And actually, when you think about what tarot is and how it's evolved over time, then who says that you have to read reversals? Um, I've also had comments when I've mentioned the Thoth that you're not really reading the tarot unless you read with a Thoth deck, which I just think is BS. And, I just think, what's with this gatekeeping about you've got to do it a certain way? So I guess my answer first major tarot teaching you relearned is just to learn to read tarot the way that I'm comfortable with rather than a prescribed way. And the way I learn tarot is, yes, I think it's beneficial. I'm not going to say essential, but beneficial to learn kind of the meanings of the card as a foundation, as a basic foundation, and then build on that and bring in intuition, bring in, what the querent is asking, whether that's you or somebody else. There's lots of nuances, and variables when you're doing a tarot reading. And I don't think there's one way and that's the only way. And I applaud anybody who picks up a tarot deck and says that, I'm gonna work with this. Whether you're going to use it intuitively or whether you're going to read from a book or whether you're just going to learn and be by the book, whatever works for you works for you. And the great thing is you're exposed to the wonderful benefits of having a tarot deck and the insights that they provide. So don't let anybody tell you you're reading the tarot wrong, and don't let anybody tell you that you've got to do it a certain way. Okay? Because people will, and that's something I've learned. There's always people out there that will tell you it has to be done this way. Just like there's people that says you can't buy your first tarot deck, it's got to be gifted to you. That's rubbish as well. I can remember being told that you had to, this was back in the 80s when I first got my deck, you have to wrap your tarot deck in silk because silk is the spiritual steel and it will protect the deck. Software update. No, I'm all right, thank you. So there's lots of these kind of, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and you don't. Your tarot deck's not going to fall out with you or allow you to read with it because you haven't wrapped it in silk. Okay, let's see. Gosh, I didn't think this would take the whole. There's only like 11 prompts. I thought this won't take the whole time, but it has. Let's go back and see some comments. Audible. Yes, I saw the Audible apes. Before my cataract surgery, I listened to a lot of podcasts. Not sure if it's the first, but the only one I still listen to is Wildly Tarot. Well, I wonder if that's the one I was thinking of when I said Wild Souls. I sometimes listen to political podcasts to put me to sleep. I listen to a few. I can't recall the name of a single one. Oops, you're freezing, Simon. Am I? Am I freezing? I wonder if that's why it said there was a software update. Oh, not freezing. Might have to refresh. Okay, that's good. Hello, Deanne. I can't get on with Toth. Absurd attitude. Toth is being the only. I had a friend years ago who had a Toth, so we read from it a lot. I don't get on with it at all. Not interested. Yeah, but there are people who actually think that Toth is it's the original. They take it right back to the Egyptians, hence Toth, and this is the true tarot. And if you're not reading Toth, then you're not reading the tarot. Yeah, you do you, boo. Oh well, said Simon about people gatekeeping. You were my first tarot tube. Oh, well said, Simon, about tarot, about gatekeeping. You were my first YouTube channel, and I'm thankful. Oh, that's lovely, Douglas, and it's great to have you with us. Tarot invites us on a personal journey. No need for gatekeeping. Absolutely, Deanne. I can't do Toth either. I know people who really love it and generally like the deco style, but it doesn't. Yeah, there's just something about it. I've tried, and I've got a Toth deck because I think it's good to have one in my collection as part of the history of tarot, but it just leaves me cold. I can't connect with the images or anything. It just feels very alien to me. Um, uh, yeah, you must. X is just fundamentalism. I agree, Brian. I'm an 80s person too, says Flip Mouse. I waited forever for my first deck. I came up and bought one. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, no right or wrong way. Do what feels right for you. There was a YouTuber that I came across and I only watched a short bit, and the person said that if you're not doing Toth, then the 78 degrees isn't a book for you. I remember reading about silk, Simon. My first deck, I wrapped in silk and kept it in a wooden box. Yeah, because they all said if you haven't got silk, put it in a wooden box. I used to have a silk scarf that I wrapped deck in because I thought you had to protect it. Um, I remember that, Simon. All decks had to be wrapped in silk in the olden days. Yeah, how we've moved on. Hello, Simon. Glad to have made it to your live. Hello, son of sun. Nice to see you. Oh, 1 o'clock. My shopping's arrived. Hi, Robert. Never got along with Toth. Toth is the way, the life, the truth. No one comes to accept by Toth. John chapter 1, verse 4. My main attraction for me with Toth was the larger size of the cards. I like that. Yeah. Okay. And that's to knock and that's not to knock anybody who does read Toth, fine. It's just when people try to overlay onto others, I've got no issues with people reading Toth, um, but I would never say to them, "Oh, you should be reading Toth," you know. So, first tarot deck you rehomed. So my first tarot deck that I rehomed was Tarot Apocalypsis by Eric C. Dunn and Kim Huggins, who also did the Tarot Illuminati, which I didn't have. And it was going back to the story about Ariel from Maven Unmasked. So when I bought this Oracle deck, which was the Rumi Oracle, and I watched it, um, it then brings up, because I've gone into YouTube, it then brings up other people. And it took me to Elle from Sacred Seed. And the first video of hers I watched was her talking about Tarot Apocalypsis, which she'd got early. And people in the comments from memory were saying, oh, we've got to wait a few months. And I watched her do this walkthrough of Tarot Apocalypsis. Bearing in mind, at the time, I had one tarot deck in my collection, which was the Rider Pack. And I thought, that is gorgeous. So the next day I went down to Waterstones, looked for it. Of course, they didn't have it. And I went to the counter and I said, look, are you getting Tarot Apocalypsis? And she looked it up on her system. She says, oh, it's not out until, I think she said September 2016. Would you like me to order it for you? And I was like, yes. And by that time that it came, I'd got some more tarot decks because I discovered the community. And I just couldn't get on with it. I thought it was beautiful. The box is ornate. The book is a hardback book, 400 and something pages. Just stunning, but I just couldn't read with it. And I was in a Facebook group back then, and I mentioned it, and this person said to me, I'll trade it. And I was like, okay, whatever that means. I can't even remember what I traded it for now. I think it might be the Goddess Tarot. And we'd got a mutual friend. So I passed this deck to the mutual friend. It's a bit of a mule for us. And we swapped. So this afternoon I went on down a rabbit hole and I watched Elle's walkthrough again, 7 years later, of Tarot Apocalypsis, and I've fallen in love with it again. I was like, I've got to add this to my wish list. And do you know what? With the exception of one deck, which was the English Magic Tarot, which I hated, but everybody was going on about it, so I got it. I've wanted back, and I bought back so many decks that I've traded or sold. I don't think I've ever sold a deck, to be fair. I've traded it or given them away. But every single time I've ended up buying them back. So it'll probably happen with Tarot Apocalypsis. But anybody else have that deck? It doesn't get mentioned a lot. Illuminati gets the first deck, by the way, gets mentioned a lot, but Apocalypsis doesn't seem to. Okay, still going about Toth. I knock on my decks to clear them with every reading, says Ramon. I do a type of prayer. Are we all talking about rituals? Giselle says, oh, weird, I've just unearthed my Tarot Illuminati. I really wanted the gold gilded one. Was it you that showed that the other day? And I said, oh, you've got the gold gilded one. Somebody showed it. It might have been you, Giselle. And mine didn't come gilded. Mine, the Tarot Apocalypsis isn't gilded, but I always wanted, when I got the Illuminati, I thought, oh, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's not gilded. Whatever happened to Alpha? Well, I've heard, David, that she was trolled. I don't know how true it is, but I've heard it in a chat group before that she left YouTube because she was trolled really bad. And around the time 5 years ago, there was a lot of trolling happening within the YouTube community. Lots of trolls would put the most awful things. But yeah, touch wood, it's calmed down a bit in recent times. But that's why I heard she'd left. But I don't know. That's second-hand information. So the very first deck I rehomed was my very first deck, the Yellow Box Rider deck I worked with for years. I gave it to my daughter to start her tarot journey. That's a lovely story, Patsy, to kind of pass that on. Simon, the Tarot Illuminati was my first deck I bought that had the gold gilding. It was amazing at the time to me. It was so beautiful. Yeah. I've never rehomed a deck. I've considered throwing 2 decks away because they arrived. I realised they were fakes. That's horrible. The Apocalypsis deck is meant to have a fantastic guidebook. Yes, it does have a fantastic guidebook. Really, I was impressed with it. Tarot Diva Ellie has the Apocalypsis. Hard lesson. Tarot YouTubers are like movie reviewers, I think. It's good to get to know their taste to avoid purchases that don't really suit me. Yeah, but then there are people that's got quite an eclectic taste, do you think, Beth, as well? I mean, it's like this deck that I was showing yesterday, the Norwegian woods. So I could show something like this, and then the next day a really nice, colourful, fluffier deck, for want of a better phrase. So we can have quite broad taste as well. Hello, Kay. Lovely to see you. I don't know if you have the Illuminati or Apocalypsis, but I love the artwork. It's in a big box right now. I don't know if I have the Illuminati or Tarot Apocalypses, but I love the artwork. Yeah, it is beautiful, beautiful artwork. Yes, it was me, says Giselle. Yeah, really lucky to get one now with the gold gilding. I asked what everybody's rituals was before reading. Right, okay, that explains why people are talking about saging and knocking on decks and okay, have I caught up? Yes, Simon, there are people like you, for example, and Candy comes to mind, who have very eclectic tastes. I think there's one prompt left. We're at 1:30. I've gone over, well, going over on time. Where are we? Uh, First two left. First, I'll speed it up. First tarot deck that touched you emotionally. I still remember it. I was live. It was a Saturday when I used to do my Cuppas at 4 p.m. And I received this deck because I'd started a tag about 5 years ago called My Soul Card, My Soul Deck, talking about the concept of a soul deck. It was a terrible tag to start because I watched everybody's. And when you hear people talking about why a deck is so important to them, I ended up buying them all. I ended up with so many decks in my collection because they're like, this deck is everything because it's their soul deck. And I was like, oh, I've got to get it. But this one in particular, I'd never heard of it. So I ordered it and it came and I didn't know what to expect really. And it was the Japaridze. I've had a special box made for this. And I still love this deck, even though there's some cards in here that I really don't like. There's some abstract cards, like it kind of reminds me of Toth. So yeah, so some are quite abstract, and then some are just beautiful. And I was doing a live, and I got choked up, and tears came to my eyes, and my voice broke, and people were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "It's just moving me, an initial visceral reaction that I'd never experienced before." I've trimmed this, so this is a trimmed version, but the trimmed makes the backs perfect. You would never know, would you, looking at the backs? And I edged it in multiple colours to match the back as well. So this was like one of my first ever deck mods. But I just find this deck, I mean, I dreamt about this card. It's stunning. The artist is incredible. Look at that for the Eight of Swords. What I love about it, that kind of the escaping from the Eight of Swords and how there's usually a route out. You just got to find it. And with this, the key is on the inside of the cell. She's in a prison of her own making. I just find it so beautiful. This is a very powerful Five of Pentacles. Quite sad. But the expression, look at that. Two of Cups. And the Three of Cups I love. Yeah, it's just such a beautiful, gorgeous deck. And it really, really got to me as I was doing a walkthrough. The only other time that's happened is when I did a walkthrough of the Shimmering Veil. That had a very similar kind of, it just hits you right in your solar plexus. You're like, wow, this is going to be an incredible tool. That's what I've had on the cover of the box because I love that. Absolutely love it. This was the first card. The second card, Deirdre of the Sorrows, was the first deck I did pathworking with, and this was the second, and incredible experience with it. So yeah, Japaridze is my first deck that touched me emotionally. And then the last one is first tarot inspired artwork that you made. Now, I wasn't going to answer this because I was like, well, I'm not an artist, I'm not creative. Maybe I could share my tarot journal. It's a little bit arty. And then I was just coming out of the bathroom, and you don't see things that are in front of you all the time. And this is not arty, but it's as arty as I got. You get the extra cards with decks. About 6 years ago, I just put them in into a collage and framed it. So there's a bit of like from Trionfi della Luna, um, Marielle. There's the bit here from The Wild Unknown, which I later had as a tattoo. Patrick Valenza's signature, even like Goddess from Bridget Grove. So I just kind of put them into this collage, and it hangs on the wall. By me Lou. So yeah, so that's all the prompts. Let's have a look at some comments before I shuffle um, a deck and do a card reading. Where did I get up to? Love that new Conrad Norwegian Woods deck. It's amazing. Yeah, I would pull a card from that, but I don't think I'm that brave. Yes, Simon, there are people like you, for example. Yeah, I read that, sorry. I brought the Japaridze because of you and love it. Is it back in print? I believe so, Giselle. Yeah, it went out of print. Um, and I had a backup unopened copy and I sold it on eBay because I thought, well, there's a new version coming out. And then it got delayed, but then it came out and I never ended up buying it as a backup because I wanted one that was untrimmed. Um, the first deck touched me, the RWS Yellow Box. Still love it above all others. Can't beat the standard RWS, in my opinion. There's so many beautiful decks out there, but for me, the tarot is the RWS. Such a beautiful deck, Simon, but those abstract ones put me off. Yes, yeah, that's the only thing. It's like a deck of two parts. There's some beautiful images like the ones I showed you, and then there's just some abstract ones. I'm like, why? Anna Kay, that's another beautiful deck. I love Anna Kay. Oh, nice, Simon. That's what I thought of doing while listening to Chris responding to his tag. I'll have to show you my tarot scrapbook. Please do, yeah. Love it, Simon. That's a really good idea. Yeah, and since then, with nearly 800 decks, I could do another 30 or 40 of those. So everything that's in that frame is from a deck that's 6 years or older. That is artistic, Simon. Well, doesn't take a lot. Although when they didn't fit, you got little gaps. I had to put things like stickers and things. Yeah. So anyway, let's pull. I'll use my newest 1909 Roses and Lilies in thick cardstock, I think. So we'll have a card for the week. We're all going to do it now. It's been hanging on my wall for years. Anybody that's been here in the last 6 years will have seen it. Hello, Robin. On reflection, is your soul deck the same, or has it changed over the years? Always my soul deck. There's decks I love, like Shimmering Veil touches deep, really deep, touches my soul. But I think you have to get your soul deck is the one that you just instinctively just reach for, the one that is home to you. Or, so if you really thought about it, because people say it and you kind of joke it off, but if you really thought about it and, the world changed and you allowed one tarot deck, just one, what would you really go for? And for me, it would have to be the RWS, Everything else is a clone of it if it's an RWS. But my soul deck, the one that, I could happily just have this deck. I'd be sad to lose all the others, but that's peripheral because for me, you only need one tarot deck. So that one tarot deck would have to be this one. Ooh. Ooh. Robin, you've just come into the chat and look what card has come up. Isn't this your significator card? I'm sure it is. Okay, so our message for the week then is that we need to take the long view to be able to make the right or the wisest decision. Okay, take the long view before you can consider your next step or how to proceed, even your first step. Step back, survey, plan, and then consider to go forward. You need to be bold. You need to be ready for an adventure. You need to be ready to embrace new horizons. But it starts with that pausing, reflecting, and taking the long view. What I would say as well, fear holds us back a lot. And sometimes we have to be fearless even when fear is present, okay? Because it's always around us. And I would say that fear is the biggest thing that stops us on our journey. So, it might look almost contradictory that, we've got to be bold, we've got to plan our adventure, we've got to follow those new horizons, we've got to be fearless even when fear is present. But at the same time, we've got to be able to take the long view, okay? And know the best way to proceed. So that's our message for the week ahead. Do you know what? I'm gonna have a go. Norwegian Woods. I pulled a card last night. This is quite a big deck. It's the Oracle deck that Conrad Stain has just released, just put into NPC, and it's a challenging deck. It's a really challenging deck. There's no words or anything, but I just feel like in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's see what comes up. I'll try and just see what I see. You can join in as well if you want. See what you see, and when you see it, say it. Okay. So, this reminds me of a story I once heard, where somebody was told that they had to go out and move a mountain or move a rock or a huge stone of some sort, and every day they went out and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and this stone wouldn't move. And eventually they came back and they said it's pointless. It's pointless. The stone hasn't moved a single inch. And the other person, and forgive me because it's a long time since I've heard the story to recount all the details, said it's not pointless. Not pointless at all. Because what you've done is you've grown stronger and muscly. I mean, look at the muscles on that guy just by pushing against the rock. And I think this is a really good analogy, for life, because sometimes things feel that it's too, what's the word I'm looking for? Unsurmountable, It's pointless. We can't change it. We can't move it. The problem's too big. Well, if you keep going out and you keep trying and you keep pushing and pushing, you're going to grow. You're going to grow in many ways. You're going to get stronger. You're going to get more resilient, you know? So nothing is futile. What a great image. I love this deck. Split it into two halves for now, yeah. Such a cool deck. Anyway, oh my gosh, it is 8:45. I've been on for an hour and 45 minutes, but it's been amazing to spend some time with you. Thank you for joining in on the prompts as well. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to Larkin Legend for creating the tag. Yeah, but thank you for being here. As you are week in, week out. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Um, I will see you in the week. I am going to do these decks. So the Vintagey Pam A and the Roses and Lilies Bright. And then we have the new cardstock version of the CS Tarot. So look out for them as well. Thanks for being here, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend. And if you're in the UK, have a fantastic long weekend. And I'll see you next time. Go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.